To draw and paint upon it the shapes, the places, the people that make up our experience of life around us. To capture events we know from everyday life and interpret them so that others can see as we see. To be an artist. At some time or another, maybe when looking at a painting in an exhibition, we've thought, that's exactly right. That's just how it is in life. Or maybe I could do better than that if I tried. But to get up and do it calls for commitment and dedication, and a singleness of mind most of us just don't possess. To be an artist is hard. It's especially hard if you're a coal miner in the northeast of England with a wife and family to look after. At 40 years of age, Robert Olley has made the transition, and made it very successfully. A common sight any morning on a new town industrial estate, the owner of a small factory starts his working day. But Bob Olley's factory is different to those that surround him. In an area where heavy industry is traditional, his product is art. Bob's original sculptures, many of them reflecting his coal mining experience, are turned into cold cast bronze figures by his associate Albert Brown and a small staff of young apprentices. Before he took charge of production, Albert too was in the coal industry. He was a mining surveyor. Bob Olley's factory is rented from Washington Newtown Development Corporation, and because he provides new jobs in an area of high unemployment, he gets considerable financial assistance. The young apprentices are school leavers and work for a time under the government's job creation scheme.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Just make sure under the cap there.
Right.
Apart from the modern chemical technology involved in the casting process and the electrical tools being used, the scene probably isn't much different to artists' workshops of any age. The craftsmen and apprentices working away on the details of production, while the artist creates new work. Bob Olley was born in 1940. He's one of a family of four, had a secondary modern education and started work at Whitburn Colliery, County Durham in 1955. He worked there for 13 years. The pit closed in 1968.
I was always good at art at school. I was always good at the wrong things, like football, cricket and art, which in those days didn't really mean a lot. But anyway, left school, went to coal mines, and this interest in art followed through, although I didn't do a lot from the hobby. It just developed into something that became an obsession. I wanted to do it more and more and more, which ended up in the full-time situation I'm in now. I decided to go full-time around about 1968 when my colliery closed, and I realised then that I'd been working for a lot of years and I had very little to show for it. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing, and I was out of a job that had been promised as a full-time job, a lifetime's job.
Apart from the sculpture produced at the factory, prints of Bob's drawings and paintings sell in thousands. And as his popularity grows, he gets more and more individual commissions for sculpture and oils. The canvas he's starting here is for Washington Newtown. This picture will be enlarged later as a mural for the main shopping precinct. Observing human life is a dangerous occupation. On Tyneside, the Geordies are very conscious of their handicap image, and one painting got Bob into a lot of hot water before it became his bestseller. Questions were asked in council. Abuse was hurled in the street. Critics described it as deplorable. He should be horsewhipped. The painting in question showed that traditional Tyneside monument, the street urinal at pub checking out time. Bob gave it its Geordie name. He called it Westo Neddy.
When it was first painted, it was put on display in an exhibition, and there were complaints into the local council about it. It was called obscene. It was really generally disliked. Something I couldn't understand, because I just think it's a funny subject. I once said to my art teacher, I thought, it would be great if I could paint one picture that people would remember me by. And I think the Nettie's going to be the picture. I start a picture with an idea which can come in the middle of anywhere. You can be sitting watching the telly, you can be sitting on a bus, you can be watching a football match, anything. Something will trigger. There's a spark of life that happens. And from that spark of life, you build around it. I look around, I see people all day and every day doing things that I think, okay, that's interesting. Mental note, I never use sketches as such. I remember things, maybe write them down as opposed to sketch them, and use them at a later date. A lady walking across the road with the stocking is wrinkled at the ankle. I think that's the little things that I like to put in pictures and paintings. Very small details, but I think that's what makes a picture interesting. It's the small details that people say, hey, look, that's really the way it happens. It's very simple. It's just looking for the smaller, interesting detail. I prefer to look on the humorous side of life. Women dominate the northeast, you know. Men think they do what women know they do. They stand, there are 3 women gossiping on the pavement, and they're not going to be moved by anybody. They're going to finish the conversation and everybody's going to walk around them or go on the other side of the road or whatever. They're not going to be moved. Women are very, very strong force in the northeast, despite what the men say.
Despite what the men say, the men don't get a chance to say much. It's too dangerous. Defence is the best form of attack. Keep out of the way, keep your head down. Maybe that's why the pubs and working men's clubs are so successful. Well, after a hard day's work, sometimes even during it, what's needed is some relaxation. Eureka, I've found it. I mean to say, what's the point of knocking yourself out? A win in the 2:30 at Gosforth Park and the barrack can stay where it is. What is she up to? She's been in there for ages. I reckon there's a secret passage from the back of the shop into the pub. She's having a slide in an orange. Oh, hello. You're not my daddy. Never mind. Nice to see you. Do you fancy a barley sugar lump? There was a bag full, but I hauled it out of the pram and it got swept up. Ah, well, back to the barrow. No rest for the weary. Frederick Street, Green Street, Derby Street, and back to the yard. I wonder if the doctor would give me a sick note to stop off work for a few days. What could it be? Me back? Me chest? Bad throat? Bronchitis? Lumbago? Ah, yes, the sick note. It's almost more important than the medicine. The queue for the doctor's surgery has got the lot. The ailing women with ailing offspring, the geriatric, the patriotic, the boozers, the smokers, the coughers, the spitters. And one that's not long for this life. No wonder the doctor needs his own medicine before opening the surgery door. It's all on the national health. But where's the health? Even the dog looks as if it needs a vet. The doctor's late. The queue's a mile long. The pub's open in 3/4 of an hour. It'll take him longer than that to get to me. When Billy the Ragman falls over the pushchair, all hell will break loose. It'll be like the start of World War III. And all on the national health. A mile away in the same town by the cold North Sea, the day trippers are seeking their cure.
The beach on the northeast coast is something great. We have this climate which really doesn't help the beach scene along at all. It's usually a case of goose pimples and blue kneecaps after one very short dip in the North Sea. Nevertheless, people do decide to brave the environments and come down to the coast. Most of the people that come down, I would guess, are from not too far away. Come down, the kids are fascinated by the sand. They come down in their trip buses, and they come and spend a day in a tent on the beach, which has to be hired from the corporation. They'll set them up in the semicircle, which is usually the arrangement to have in a particular street they belong, which means both of your neighbours are on the immediate right-hand and left-hand side of your tent. This communal thing seems to go on even on a day's trip to South Shields.
Painting the mural for the Washington Gallery's shopping precinct is a big job. Bob Olley spent weeks making his notes and sketches of shoppers in the town before starting the detailed drawing. And this painting, from which the mural itself will be copied, is a major work in itself.
If someone asks me to do a job, I always say yes, and then worry about it later. Every commission I've had has been virtually different with its own problems. I'm not saying I know everything about the problems of producing something like that, but I mean, with the Washington development job, there were things that no artist should really be bothered with, like fire precautions. I mean, I had to worry about the type of material that the mural was being painted on, something that you never dream of having to worry about. But I got over that problem just because I asked the right people and took the right advice.
The preliminary stages are all complete. The original idea was discussed, Bob's first black and white drawing inspected, his oil painting has been accepted, and now his patron, Washington Development Corporation, has given the go-ahead for the mural itself to be painted. Bob works on the big panels in the shopping centre where the mural will eventually go on display as a permanent feature. Working at this scale and in public means there are technical problems to be overcome, and inevitably there are sightseers.
I was constantly being asked questions of how did I start to paint, what techniques do I use, what kind of paints do I use, and surely that must be a bridge from the artist to the layman, if you like. You're helping him to understand what you're doing, which can be bad for both sides of the argument. The artist comes closer to the viewer, and the viewer comes closer to the artist. I think it's as simple as that. It's just a fusing of the two sides. If you work in public, I think it keeps you on your toes.
In the Washington mural, as in all Bob's work, every figure is a detailed individual, but they all interact. They're part of the same experience, a chain of cause and effect, a sort of Heath Robinson device made up of human figures.
The sequence of events that I like to get in crowd scenes is the guy that carries the carpet. His attention is sidetracked by the size of the female's bosom on his left. The carpet he's carrying hits a guy in the back of the neck who is carrying a shopping bag full of French loaves, which one end of which disappears up a female's skirt, who in turn sticks a dummy in the child's eye, which was meant for its mouth. The child gets a fright and it drops the contents of his ice cream cone into the shoe of a cleaner who happens to be standing by. The cleaner has not yet, but is about to very soon to discover that she has something cold and wet in her platform shoe.
The past, his past, is very important to Bob Olley, and it's reflected in all his work. The close-knit society of the immediate post-war years on Tyneside seems almost like a long-gone period of history. The whole face of the area is changing. The old streets are being demolished, and the people moved out to new housing estates. In his drawings and paintings, Bob preserves an impression of life that is going fast and will soon be gone forever.
Well, that really is a great part of my activity, which is the nostalgia bit. I mean, I paint things and feel the nostalgia in the subject, which most people do, and that's why my work appeals, I think, to a lot of people, because it triggers off a nostalgic nerve, if you like, and brings back memories for them. You know, I like to bring back the happy, nostalgic memories as opposed to maybe the not so happy memories.
The comfortable security of childhood. No running hot water, no bathroom, an outside netting, torn-up newspaper on a nail, and the ubiquitous Darnley cast-iron cistern that froze solid every winter. And wash day, the tub, the wringer, and the posstick, white Windsor soap, and the smell of steam. With the fire blazing, the curtains drawn, and Dad out at the club, the nights were Mam's. She could cope with almost anything, from a bruised knee to a death in the family. And if there was anything she couldn't cope with, she took care not to let on. She was the pivot round which everything revolved. She was Kitty, or Hetty, or Nancy, or Bella, but when something went wrong, she was Mom! If something did go wrong, you could bet your boots it was something to do with the gang. Every street had its gang. They were the secret societies of the back lanes. You were either in the gang or not in the gang. And if you weren't in the gang, take care in the lane.
There were call deliveries in every back lane most days. One of the days that this caused problems was a washing day. Everyone had their clothes hung out to dry, and the coal wagon would come along and causing great problems with clothes props and clotheslines, and trying to drop its coal and causing the dust clouds.
Bob's nostalgia for the childhood community life of the gang, the back lane, and the colliery houses is reflected in the gentle humour of much of his work. In his drawings and paintings particularly, he shows us living our everyday lives with perhaps less dignity than we'd like to think we have. But when he turns to coal mining subjects, his style is altogether different. In his sculptures of miners and pit ponies hauling tubs full of coal, Every line shows it's formed by a man who spent 13 years of his life with a cold face. The humour's still there, but it's the humour of men who do a hard and dangerous job. When you spend your working day deep underground, a sense of humour is a definite asset.
There's a sense of humour in the coal mines that prevails, which is peculiar only to the coal mines. It's a world that only a coal miner understands. Even people who've had a visit to a coal mine probably haven't seen the real side of coal mining. If they say been to a coal face, it probably has not been a wet coal face, a low coal face, a coal face which is bad roof conditions or that sort of thing. They've seen, if there is such a thing, the better side of coal mining. To be fair to coal miners, they earn every halfpenny. It's a waste of time me either drawing or telling stories about coal mining. There's nothing that I could do that could simulate the true conditions. You've got to get down there and really taste the dust, smell the sweat, and experience it at first hand. I left the coal mines in 1968 and conditions were fairly good. In the years that I've been out, conditions have changed dramatically. But everything's improved, but it's still basically, it always will be a hard job. Somebody's actually got to go down there and get the coal out. I find the romantic side of coal mining, if there is such a thing, is the time maybe between the wars and just after the Second World War. I always liken the romance, if you like, of coal mines to the romance of the tea clippers and the clipper ships that used to sail. Very graceful things, very graceful vessels, but actually to work on them, they're probably hellish places to live and work and spend your life. But with the passing of time, they've matured, and people tend to forget about the harsher side of that existence, because those men had to climb up into the rigging of those ships and do whatever they had to do. But now people have forgotten about that, and they just look at pictures of clipper ships, think, oh, what graceful things. The coal mines are rapidly becoming like that. Pit pony and things, and tubs and things like that. Given another 20 years, they'll be romantic things. The work I do is from the impression I got when I was a coal miner. I'm not saying it's like that now, but I'm sure most coal miners will identify with the type of thing I'm trying to say, which is it's man against. I've achieved the thing I set out to achieve, which is the fact that I worked for myself and I had a direct influence on whichever way I wanted to go. But now I look forward to the next commission, which would be a challenge. If I had a choice in life, apart from being an artist, I would love to be a stand-up comic. I haven't got the ability to do, but I love to make people laugh. I love to entertain people. And the only way I can do it is by what I produce on canvas paper or in sculpture form.
The popularity of Bob's work in his native northeast England is clear confirmation that he captures the complex Geordie character to perfection. There's humour and wit and heart and compassion. But life has never been easy for the people in his pictures and in his sculpture. The kids in the lane, the washerwomen, the rag and bone man remembered from childhood, the miners with their lamps, the ponies and the bonny pit laddies, the day trippers and the shoppers, they're all Geordies, from a part of the country that knows the reality of being out of work and hard up. But it's always the good times we want to remember, the warmth and the friendliness, the happiness and the fun. And that, more than anything else, is what Robert Olley is all about.
There's enough people trying to frighten other people in life, and I just like to try and entertain people and give people the good bits of it.
How old were you when you first went down the pit?
I was just turned 17, in 1957, and prior to that I left school when I was 15 and took a job as a signwriter, and I loved that job and I would have stayed there had I not promised my dad I would be a coal miner. And I felt obligated to go down the pit, and it wasn't a massive decision, but it makes you wonder how life would have turned out if I'd gone the other direction, maybe just been a good painter and decorator and had my own business, and that would be the end of the story. But now, since starting with the coal industry, it inspired me to draw things and paint things to describe what life was like underground. You had to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning for the early shift to get here to go down the pit at 4 in the morning. And we had 3 shifts, 4 in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which everybody hated because it took you had no evening time for a week. You were down the pit till 12 o'clock at night. Hated that shift. The number 1 shaft was here by this clump of trees here, and beyond that was the number 2 shaft, the one I used to go down. The one thing you can't get are the sounds and smells of the coal mine. We were 150 feet down and 3 miles out under the North Sea in 1968. And that was one of the reasons the pit closed, because it became economical because of the travelling time to get from the shaft bottom to the coal face or wherever. And there was no man riding belts in those days, it was illegal. So you had to walk in 3/4 of an hour in and 3/4 of an hour out. Went through the lamp cabin, collected your lamp, and then went up to the heapstead to the shaft. Hard to believe there was 300 men worked here one time. I've had a great life, but I've never regretted my time as a coal miner, ever. To be honest, I'd had enough of the coal industry. There's a pit pony coming past. Down at Orgreave in the miners' strike in 84, 85, and I didn't quite know how to tackle it in a different way. But one of my favourite paintings is Picasso's Guernica, and I thought if I can bring the two together and present the Orgreave incident in a Picasso format, which is miles away from my usual style, that was what motivated me to do it. And once I got started with it, it just flew along. It took me about a month. But what I wanted to do was to get the gap between the innocence of the daisies, which were in that field where the incident happened, the menacing look of the police and in fact the strikers. So, and try to have the balance where I'm not laying blame on one side or the other, but the violence that went on there was really uncalled for, and I just tried to soften it a little bit but get the point across. And the main feature for me is the row of policemen, and the eyes are focused, so it doesn't matter where you are, and the horses for that matter, the eyes follow you. This strike affected everyone that was to do with coal, because where I was brought up, which is not far from here, 200 yards, they had it was the entrance to West Oak Colliery, and they had the pickets had this little shack there, and it was they had the braziers out, and they were there for the length of the strike, and the police used to come in and with the battle wagons and get the black legs to go into the pit yard, and all the miners were sort of demonstrating against that. And there was a police inspector called Liddell, and he didn't get on very well with the coal mines, very harsh apparently. And they had this little shack, and they nicknamed it the Little House on the Prairie after the TV series. And he had it demolished, saying it was a threat to traffic. They weren't just fighting the police, they were fighting the state, and they were never going to win, ever.
The Western Netty. Just tell me the story about why you decided to paint it to start with.
Well, it was the first sort of major exhibition I had. It was in the town here, South Shields, and I was looking for something different. And when we used to wait for the pit bus down at Westover, we were just opposite this urinal, and it was well used in those days. And I thought, oh, it's different, and I'd used it myself actually quite often. And so I thought, I'll paint this, and you put it in the exhibition. It caused a stink, literally a stink. The exhibition started, and within 2 days someone had complained to the council that they thought the Western Netty paint was obscene. So there was such a commotion about it. I decided that by the time the council made their mind up to close the exhibition down, the exhibition would be finished. So masses of publicity for the painting itself and for the exhibition. There was a workman's club there. In fact, there's 3 workman's clubs in this area: the top club, the middle club and the bottom club. And they used to stand talking when the clubs closed at 3 o'clock, and then get caught short, and then they all queue up to use the toilet. So that's my earliest memory of these toilets. But when I started to be a coal miner, we used to catch the pit bus over there, and 3 o'clock in the morning in the winter there's often somebody need to use the toilet, and the Western Netty was right on hand. Knocking the front door, and they said, "Oh, Bob, they're knocking your netty down." I said, "Well, it's not mine, I just painted it." Okay, so I got some of my friends to help me take it down brick by brick, numbered it, and hid it in the shipyard up in Jarrow. And it was there for 15 years, I guess. Beamish took it and rebuilt it. And unfortunately, I had to take it down again because people were using it, and it wasn't plumbed in. It was just a static exhibit. So it's in that state now of being demolished, and there's a pile of bricks somewhere in Beamish. I was always good at art at school, and in the second year senior school, I had this teacher, Major Harry Edward Buckland, who was he was still in the army as far as he was concerned. He used to carry his cane under his arm like a swagger stick. But I got on with him okay because he was the art teacher. And there was this time I'd finished my homework in biro, and you weren't allowed to do that in those days. There had to be a pencil or a pen and ink. Anyway, I got 4 canes off him that Monday morning when he decided to punish me for not using the proper equipment. He finished back at me and said, this afternoon I want you to paint the scenery for the school Christmas play. I said, right, my fingers were like pork sausages. And I didn't realise at the time how much encouragement he was giving me. And when just before I left school, he said, "I know you're going down the pit like most of the lads here, either pits or the shipyards." He said, "Promise me you'll never put the pencil down." And I never forgot that. In the first exhibition I had, I invited him. And as hard as he was, I'm sure I saw a little tear in his eye.
That's what you call the Harvey Drift, yeah. 600 yards.
Jody died,
They put 1 and 4, so the lads would walk them down in bikes, but they never, you weren't supposed to ride on the manset on the tubs and out, but they used to ride them up the drift race.
We did. You get a notice though, couldn't you?
Every Friday, they used to ride up the drift, Jimmy Glynn and them.
Begin to regret asking this question.
Friday, man, all the putters, we used to all like sit together and have a smoke at the bottom of the lamp cabin. And if it was a sunny day, we would sit there and I'd say, "Anybody fancy going down to the George?"
That's what we did.
Aye,
That's what we did. We used to do it.
I'll go and get with gear back on, get a wish and bugger up down to the George and Fatfield.
You know how you could acquire a nickname down the pit? Mm-hmm. What's the funniest one you've heard?
Bungalow.
Bungalow.
Bungalow Joe, aye.
Bungalow Joe.
Billy Johnny.
Bungalow you had no upstairs.
You had no upstairs, that's why
The best one I heard was this bloke, he says to me, "Have you seen this guy in the showers?" He says he got a little pimple on each of his little toes. It looks as though he's got 6 toes on each of his feet. He says, that's where I had a look, and he got the nickname the six-toe kid. But his mate, unfortunately, got the nickname Pancho because of the TV series, the Cisco Kid and Pancho, and that was the name till they left the pit.
And he actually hopped with half his leg off, hopped into the roadway, and that's when we done him up and got him out by. And a couple of days when I was starting, there was a little Billy Hall that was always coming away the roof, you know. And I was actually in the gate when it happened. Ronnie, there's been a fall on the face, and went in. Well, all he could see was like heaps of stones and ramming that. And it took a 1 hour and a half because there was no way to put on a cold face, no way to get shot of them.
I couldn't get
and
shot.
when they got him out, he was dead.
The pony couldn't stop. And I couldn't stop it. I was trying to shove dregs in, you know, and couldn't, and it just away down, half a dozen toes down, you know, and it was about, what, 100, 150 yards down, and it just dragged the horse. Once it picked up speed, it just dragged the horse. You could hear the blooming horse squealing like hell until it finished it, you know, until it killed it. Was keep banging it against the thing.
Is that the one you put on the tram and marked for the canteen?
He said, I'll go and have a look at the window, and it wipes the steam off the windows. Looks, he said, Andrew Goffin on the top of a truck. And he said, I opened the window, he says, oh, what are you doing there? He says, oh, hello, Jimmy. He says, have you got a Clays prop out in Borough? He says, I was one in the backyard, what do you want that for? He says, last night, he says, when you was a cold trophy, I would just come up, we're all dressed from the new crown. So jumping across from truck to truck. So I landed in a slurry truck, and I was up to here in slurry. He says, my brother pulled them out. He said, well, I left my shoes in there, so I want to get them out before I get to the club.
Durham alone, there was over 3,000 killed in explosions or after damp. And I mean, Westoe and Whitburn never had an explosion, but Wearmouth, Jarrow, Jarrow and Heaven were particularly bad. It was the candles that was causing the explosions, but there was more people killed with the after damp than with the methane. There was half a dozen killed with explosion, but if it took fire with the coal dust, it used to rip back to the shaft and kill everybody with carbon monoxide
poisoning.
Well, that's quicker. I hadn't realised there was so many, but there's about over 3,000 in one county.
He was maybe 20, 21, and he took the guard off and he poked it. What he shouldn't, you know, everybody knows you shouldn't poke a stick in. He poked it in, it didn't chop his arm off, it pulled it out. It just out, you know, the whole lot.
And he used to go down there every week for his meat. And he says, do you fancy? Oh, he says, no. Mind, his wife was very nice, Charlotte, you know. And that guy...
How come he know all the women, all the men's wives? Names at you? Know where it is at, I tell you what.
But they were pleasant memories, you know. And you know, when you talk about, like, in latter days, but I recall when we first started to get, you know, like the Hutton 903, that roadway wasn't there. You had to go along the old Say Winnings roadway.
In the old days, and like the Davy Lamp days, well, the most interesting story is, you know, they used that Speddens mill where they got sparks. Well, he was killed, he seldom.
His leg went round the box end of the Panzer. And it took below his knee, took his leg off, completely off.
Honest, it was like that. It's, draw the lot, draw lots. And so they wrapped it up mid bratters cloth, you know, and this Ken Young, I think it was a wagon man, won the draw. And away he gone 3 mile out from his East Yardseam up the shaft. And next morning I saw him. I said, hey, you lucky bug. I said, you got a sharp one. He said, well, I wouldn't eat again. So I got halfway and it was gone. He's just spewed.
Dad, still on tomorrow, you know, what shift you're on, you know? 6pence every time we hear the alarm. He says, yes, but this week, if you don't hear it, there's a shilling each.
He went tumbling over, so he got called acrobat. When you do go and get your pit gear on, I'm going to arrange for the logo to take in. He says, and get yourself back down the pit.
I'll go in the back track. Wait, I didn't.
Timothy knew them.
Did you ever race them out?
Your favourite one, what was the term?